Hello, everyone, and welcome to EduMatch. So follow along with us with the hashtag EduMatch on Twitter or on the YouTube live chat. So you can go ahead and interact with us if you have any questions or comments and just chime in. Let us know who's watching. We would definitely love to give you a shout out. So tonight, I have the distinct pleasure of chatting with Jon Corippo of Q. So let me tell you a little bit about Jon before we go ahead and get into this. So Jon is an interim executive director for Q, leading Q throughout California and Nevada. Jon keynotes, leads, and designs professional learning experiences all over the country. Jon's core PL skills are focused on one-to-one deployment, Common Core, project-based learning, social media skills, and lesson design. Jon is the creator of the Q Rockstar Camp Series, the Q Rockstar Admin Camp Series, and planner for the Q Super Symposium and JET Review Program. And I've been to quite a few of those, and they are good stuff. Under Jon's leadership with his Q professional learning team, QPL has trained over 32,000 teachers in 2015 to 2017. Jon is a Google certified innovator from GTAWA 2011, and he's been a lead learner for Google Teacher Academy in the Mountain View cohort. And he is also an Apple Distinguished Educator and has facilitated over 10 executive briefings and led sessions in Final Cut Pro for the 2013 Apple Institute. Jon was a co-designer of Minarets High School, which originated as a GAF one-to-one MacBook and PBL-based high school in 2008, and has been named an Apple Distinguished School 3 times. Jon has also been named a Q Gold Disc recipient, Madera County Teacher of the Year, and CVQ Teacher of the Year. Jon has served as an Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction and Director of Technology at the county level. Jon's last district was selected as a Future Ready district, implementing one-to-one from 7th grade up, adding coding, 3D printing, PBL, and Minecraft EDU in all K-8 schools, among other notable innovative activities. So Jon, what a resume there. Welcome to EduMatch. So great to have you.
Thank you very much. I'm stoked because whenever I say I know Sarah, people are like,
no, the feeling is definitely mutual. And it was great like spending time with you back in July at Super Q. It was great to actually meet you face to face. And when we met, I felt like I've known you for years.
That's the power. And I think that's kind of what we're talking about tonight is connected education. Like we don't live on the same half of the continent, and yet we have a loose association and we know what each other's value systems are. And we know we can walk into a room and go, well, let's talk teaching. And I think that's what social media has really added to education. It's created a whole other layer of communication that was literally impossible 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, that is the truth. Like the game has definitely changed, and now, we're all connected and we can reach out to people literally across the world. So it's just awesome.
It's unlimited creativity and sharing, bottom line.
That is the truth right there. So tell us a little bit about your background and who or what inspired you to go into education.
Once a year, I have to give a big shout out to my wife. She's the one that actually did it. We had gotten married and I was doing various things. My degree is actually in advertising, doing things like that in that trade. And her former high school cheerleading coach was an assistant superintendent. And he and I ended up sitting together at the table at all of her friends' weddings, right? So they're all out dancing and doing their girl stuff. And he and I are like, what do you want to talk about? He's like, teaching. And I was like, I hated school. So we started talking about teaching and technology and what the potential was. And over about 4 or 5 weddings of us talking, my wife was like, you're going to be a teacher, dude. You're going to do this. So, and I was actually started my first year of teaching. My first day of teaching is actually April Fool's, which I find pretty awesome. Which means every time my teaching credential shows up, it shows up on April Fool's. And I just think, oh my God, they have no idea what they were doing when they let me do that. Pushed me, and then the other fellow, Mike Young, we lost him a few years ago, but he's a great guy. And I got into teaching with an emergency credential. I literally had my bachelor's degree and fingerprints. That was all I had. I started teaching and did a long-term sub thing. And I think you probably had a similar thing. About my 3rd day in, I was like, what? But I also knew that I loved it.
Right.
I was like, I knew it. I was like, this is what I do. This is my jam. So that's kind of my origin story. Over the next 3 years, I went in and got my credential.
I got you.
It's
Yeah, that's
advisable.
yeah, definitely. That's something you definitely want to consider, if you plan on sticking around. So,
Good thing to have.
right, nice thing to have for sure. Yeah, so when you were teaching, like we were talking a little bit about like how you were working with video in your classroom, and I was surprised because I thought that you came from like a television background initially, and you told me that you actually learned it like while you were doing it, and you learned with the students, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
That
so
was one of the most powerful things that I could have learned as an educator is learning how to be an adult learner, which is just the same as being a primary learner or a middle school learner or a high school learner. It's the same process. My principal came to me and said, we want to do something unusual next year with your class. And I said, what do you want to do? I don't know. You'll have to make that up. And I was like, okay, what's my budget? And he goes, I don't have a budget. I just want you to do something different. So I announced in May that my class was going to be a volunteer class at a public school. Like, you can only get into my class if you volunteer. Biggest marketing scam ever. Kids are like, oh, I need to get into that class. And I didn't even tell them what we were doing, right? And I sat them down the first day and I said, let's talk. What do you guys want to do? What do you guys want to do? I can make the content work with anything. You want to do fish tanks? We can do aquaculture. I can make language arts fit in that. You want to, you want to do model rockets all year? I can make that work. And they ended up, there were a lot of them that had like an interest in theater. And so we ended up making a TV show. And all I did was 11 or 12-year-old does. I started looking at how does this work? In the world do these things. And I just started amassing a little bit more information every year. And the key was to not be afraid. I never went through a phase where I was like, oh no, I don't know how to make a video. I was like, let's make the videos. And one of the big breakout moments was literally we got that first iMac in and one of my students sat down, 30-second intro that was amazing, like Lincoln Park and all these quick cuts. And I was like, maybe I don't need to teach them. Maybe I just need to tell them to go faster. And that really changed the way that I approached teaching. I realized that we didn't have to spend 3 months learning about Orson Welles and the way he approached film.
right.
Orson Welles, wherever he is right now, I'm not dissing him, but the concept of cracking the box open and seeing what we could do was way more important than waiting until we had the book smarts. So we literally had a weekly show up and running in 2 weeks. We literally had like a 36-inch TV, a huge glass TV that probably weighed 500 pounds. We would roll it into the cafeteria so that all the kids could watch the show. Teaching from that, which is just open that puppy up and figure it out. Steve Jobs, if you look him up on YouTube, there's a little 40-second clip from him that says, once you figure out that everything in life is made by people that are no smarter than you, and he said, look around. Everything that you see, people who by and large are no smarter than you, they just, and I'm adding now, they have a specialization. They spent time studying the problem. They used pre-existing information to build a thing, right? But Steve Jobs, look at that guy. He never was a coder. Hardware. He knew what he wanted it to look like, and that's all that mattered to him. This is what I want it to look like. You figure out how. And I think there's a lot to be said there for teaching. One more little tie-in if anybody's like, well, oh, Steve Jobs, he was super geeky. A guy named Henry Ford, famous for, Sarah, what's he famous for?
Oh, cars for sure.
And the assembly line, right?
Ah, yes, that too.
Like of all times, could not read blueprints. Not read blueprints. Henry Ford did not make the cars. He told the guys what he wanted it to do. And 3, never got his MBA. So learn from the idea of not being boxed in for having the perfect scenario. So that was a really long answer, but I hope we got where you wanted to go.
Oh, totally. Yes. No, that was a perfect answer because it just had like so many gold nuggets in there. So so that's awesome. So when we're thinking of being a lifelong learner and thinking of jumping in, then a lot of times then we learn how to do these things through connecting and through sharing ideas. And you're a huge proponent of this. So what advice? Yeah. So what advice would you have for educators in building their networks?
Yeah, well, I'm going to throw some George Kiros at you right now. You know, I love his quote. I believed it, but he codified it and got it down. He basically said, right now, being an unconnected educator is a choice. It is not a requirement. You're saying I actively am not interested in engaging with other teachers who might know more than me about Seesaw or Google Drive or how to do lit circles or STEAM. You're basically saying, nah, I'm going to spend the next 10 years figuring this out all by myself. I don't want anybody to assist me. I think that's a huge concept, because when you start talking about iterative design from a design thinking standpoint, iterative design does not mean that you have your state report. Career, you will adjust it 20 times once per year. Iterative design means you're going to go on Twitter or the internet, hell, Pinterest. You could go to Pinterest and type state report, right? State report plus Pinterest. Look at the cornucopia of what's out there. And then you go, ooh, I'll take 3 of these, 2 of those, 1 of these, and 5 of these, and I'll make my own thing. You don't want that. And you wouldn't want to email the people that built those things and send them back the thing you made and go, look what I did. That is so antithetical to the concept of lifelong learning that I can't stand it, right? So this idea of being connected, it's okay to just be mostly a consumer. I don't think anybody's saying you have to tweet all day. I don't think anybody's saying that. But I think people are saying that you should be connected. My version of what George says is you should really have probably 4 or 5 friends, each either similar grade range to you or similar subject to you. You should have 4 or 5 friends like that that don't live in the same state you do. Again, up until very recently, it would be very common for people to have their 4 teaching buddies from the district and then maybe their college roommate. And that was the end of their teaching chain, right? It was after that, it was the union and people from those other schools and those other crazy districts that are not like us. And that was the end of the line. But nowadays, it's like, to go to #EdChat, just troll through until you find somebody that you think agrees with you and say, I like what you said right there, let's talk. And they'll do it. And I just think that's huge. Now, if you want to hear the numbers behind that, Linda Darling Hammond, who's a pretty famous educator out here, especially out west, she has data that shows that educators don't get really better at delivering their content in such a way that resonates with kids. I'm just saying success in a long way, right? Until you have this educator delivering content, students responding equals success, that doesn't happen until you spend about 40+ hours a year in sustained. Most districts that I've met, 1 to 3 days a year for, the PD day. The one where you have like the little bowls of the candy and there's like 8 water bottles. Well, most districts can only do 1 to 3 of those a year. That's only 18. You're not even halfway to winning. That's where Twitter, Facebook, things like that come in, or Voxer. Oh my God, how many hours have you and I lost on Voxer this year, Sarah? Hundreds.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Kind of professional development where you say stop and here's your binder, right? It's not that kind. It's thinking about our craft. It's thinking about our craft in the same way that if you, and this is an example I just shared in a Q blog post recently, if you were a NASCAR pit crew person, like you may not like NASCAR, I'm not a super big NASCAR guy, but when you watch them change those tires in 6 seconds or 8 seconds, you think that they just go to 2 days of training a year and that comes out like that? Oh no, that's 1,000,000 reps, right? Because they're into like muscle memory. They've even got to know how to riff if it all goes bad. Like they need to have it fixed in 1 second. So if you take that mindset and apply it to teaching, can you imagine all the NASCAR pit crew guys going, yeah, boss, nah, I don't want any more ideas. No more professional development. The tire, I only have to do it 3 times a race. There's 10 races a year. I'm good. I don't need to do this. Think of a chef, right? Like if you watch I was watching Burnt, with Bradley Cooper,
Oh,
that
I haven't
movie.
seen that
Or if you
one.
watch Chef, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's a little drummed up, but it's a great storyline. Or if you watch Chef, and if anybody's watching right now, I would encourage you to watch Chef with Jon Favreau, and watch Chef from the storyline of a teacher with their craft, obsessed. They don't just go, yeah, I'm done cooking for today. No more food today. I'm not driving by Applebee's thinking how I could make their menu better. Nope. Chef, and at the end of the day, I just stop. So I guess I got a little bit sideways on that. But the bottom line here is be that active about the progression of our career as most other careers are. That's the bottom line. Most other careers, you handle your own professional development, and sure, maybe your boss sends you to that big event once or twice a year, but you don't stop your individual professional development just because there's not a bag full of tchotchkes waiting for you somewhere at a conference. You keep going because that's your passion, right? Isn't that what you hear from teachers? I teach because of my passion.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the
So
truth. Yeah, so definitely that passion, just that hunger to learn more, absolutely. So that kind of leads us to the next question. So when we immerse ourselves in these learning opportunities, and a lot of times when we connect and we collaborate with others, then these grassroots movements start to emerge. So what role would you say that teacher leadership and grassroots movements have in education?
I think that they're the lifeblood of any organization. I don't think it's a teacher-centric thing. If your listeners or watchers in this case, if they would look up a thing called Moore's Law of Diffusion, and I think we talked about this, there's
Yeah.
like this bell curve. And in any group of human beings, and it doesn't matter whether they're cheerleaders, football players, artists, whatever, if you take a group of people and you focus them on a singular concept, they break themselves down into a kind of a bell curve. And so to get to your answer, which is what is the role of the grassroots? Without the grassroots teachers, we would not have concepts like the following. We would not have Google Docs anywhere near it is. I know multiple teachers who actually signed up for a Google domain on their own credit card and said that they were the principal of the school just to be able to get that thing started, right? Like app smashing. We wouldn't have things like flip teaching. We wouldn't have things like educators using Google Hangouts to talk about PD, which seems like what we're doing right now. You need that grassroots group to say, I think I can make that work, and I think that works. I'm going to give Tara Martin a shout out. Look what she's done with book snaps, right?
Yeah.
She could have easily done this right here. You ready? She could have done this. Yeah, my district isn't paying me for this.
True.
Well, without Dave Burgess, right? Dave Burgess, he's got his pirate thing going, which is awesome. But what's more important is he's created a small empire of teacher educators that he's allowing to tell similar stories, which then ditch that textbook. So I can't imagine our craft being relegated to an Applebee's kind of place where if you make the macaroni and cheese different than the Applebee's menu, you get fired.
Yeah.
Try going to work for McDonald's and telling them you got a new idea for the Big Mac and see how that goes. Right?
Right. Right.
They don't want to hear it. But they have people to do that for them, right? They have test kitchens. In education, we are the test kitchen. Share. And I can't remember who said it, but somebody just basically said the rules are do good stuff, right? That's the rules. Do good stuff, find out what works, and share it. You can't deny the power of that for our educational community.
Yeah, that is just so true. So true. So kind of tying together what we were just talking about the grassroots movements and the teacher leadership as well as the connections, then how can educators leverage the power of social media to support these grassroots movements?
Well, one of my favorite things I've been seeing is school districts bring up their own hashtags and then encouraging, remember the bell curve, everybody in the middle won't want to do it, right? They won't want, they're too busy or whatever, or they don't get it yet. But this group right here is getting fed. This group right here is going to start doing this thing. Oh my gosh. And they're going to invite people like you and I to join their Twitter chats, just to pop in, because it gives them a little gravitas and it gives them a little bigger market. That's one of my favorite little tricks I've been seeing. And one of the things we do at Q is we do professional development. And when we come out, we bring a team. But what we also do is take a couple of their local Sarah type characters who are kind of hot rod educators, and we mix them in with us. Because guess what? Those are the people that would be in the back of the room going, dude, I already know this. So offline for the day, we put them right up with us. And then we work with them because we, in a lot of cases, will do a lot more presenting than they do. It's not that we're better by any means. We have more reps. We have a lot of reps. Some of our people are going to do 25, 35 presentations a year. They have very specific things that work. So imagine me, you, and two other people. Name two other educators real quick that you people you like.
All right, I'm gonna shout out Rochelle
Just random.
because yeah, Rochelle Post because she's watching right now. So shout out to Rochelle, as well as let me see, let me scroll through Tia Simmons. Tia
Okay,
Simmons.
so Rochelle and Tia and John and Sarah, we're going to go do a PD 2 months from now for district, right? So what we do is we're going to get on the phone and find two people or three people from their district that are their local Tia, right? Or their local Sarah. And we're going to fold them in and we're going to plan together. We're going to go, hey, let me see your slides 3 weeks before we go. Hey, let me hear how your session's going to go. And we design those together. When we leave, when Tia and Rochelle and you and me leave, guess what happens? Some of those skills stay behind. Those teachers have an elevated skill set that they can keep going and keep pursuing for as long as they want. And I think that's one really unique thing that we do at Q is when we come in, we try not to be the sage on the stage. We try to engage people and share and model so that when we leave, that they can go, oh my gosh, this works so good, I should keep doing it. And then my personal little wrinkle, which a lot of people have been using, and I love that they've been using, is every time I do a session, it comes with free lifetime tech support. That's a done deal. If you tweet me 2 weeks from now and say, John, you were talking about quizzes, can you show me? I will show you. Say, John, that green screen thing, I can't get it to work. Shots. I will make it work. And I think that's a really good idea that we can give people because that emboldens them. That's it's funny. I'll have 700 or 800 people in a room and say free lifetime tech support, and my wife's like, oh my God, another weekend. People call or text, which I actually wish more would. But what's cool is what they're hearing from me is if I'm not afraid to take care of 700 of you, right? Like, what if I showed you 3 really cool tricks for making grilled cheese sandwiches and said, you can call me later if you don't get it? How many people are going to call me? So you got to share things that make them go, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get to my class and try that. Have them understand that if they get to their class and it doesn't work, you can call me. But you know what I get? Way more. I get this way more than help. Like, seriously, I'll get a week. It's sad how few I get. Please, look what we did today. I get it. Look what we did today. This is cool. What else can I do? More important to me because now those teachers have a sense of, ooh, this is a thing. It's kind of like, Sarah, have you ever heard of pulled pork nachos?
I think I have. You told me about them, I think.
So basically, it's nachos, okay? But instead of putting hamburger and beans and stuff, you put pulled pork. And then you put coleslaw and you put some cheese and drizzle some barbecue over it. When I first tell people that, they go, I want to eat that. Variation on nachos. So let's do the checklist. You like chips? Or do you like coleslaw? We've just arranged them a little different, right? The first time I saw that, my wife was a little food fair. She sends me a text. She's like, "Oh my God, pulled pork nachos." I even went. But then she said, "No, we're going to make them." So she came home. She made them. And now that's a thing in our house. Like on Sundays, I put in a pork butt in the morning. We shred it in the afternoon, and we have pork nachos. So the idea here is that we need to be doing those kinds of things with our classroom. Just, I used Class Dojo. It's like I did it this way. My kids did a Word doc. It's look how they embedded it and made it into a hyperdoc. And then somebody else goes, "Oh, hyperdocs, they don't even have to be in a doc." And you get that little riffing that goes on with food, right? I got a friend of mine who teaches a cooking class. He's a professional chef. And you know how he does the first night of class, Sarah? Because I think you're going to dig this. Here's how he does the first night of class. These kids have all paid a lot of money to become chefs. So the first night of class, they walk in. There's a big, huge bag of potatoes. And he goes, "Go." So they're in the kitchen. They start making mashed potatoes. Some have, some haven't. Up on the internet. You got 20 more minutes. Keep going. Okay, let's test all of our mashed potatoes. And he goes, "Now, I'm going to show you how I make mashed potatoes. And this is how good this guy is." Mashed potatoes. Well, you skin them. You mash them. You put in some sour cream or milk or butter or whatever your extra things are. Half and half is my favorite thing. He goes, "You guys aren't doing it right, man." So he gets out his mandolin, the potatoes thin, like almost potato chips. And then he lays them all in the pan and he poaches them. "What are you doing?" And he goes, "If you poach the potatoes before you mash them, they're smooth and not starchy." The whole room's like, "Oh." It should be like, right? People should walk in going, "Hey, I've got this workbook. What else could we do?" And people like you and Tia and Rian and your friend, who's your other friend? Lost her name.
Rochelle. Rochelle.
Michelle. They need to go like, "Oh, we don't use workbooks anymore, dude. That's Applebee's teaching. Let me show you how to build a hyperdoc. Let me show you how to Iron Chef it. Let me show you how we use Nearpod." There's 100 ways to do it. But here's how we don't do it. We don't just put potatoes in the pot and then smash them all together, because there's better ways to do it. So that's kind of a long story, but you see where I'm going with that?
Oh, totally, totally. And Rochelle says that we're making her hungry. So,
I'll tell her all about what tri-tip is later.
all right, that sounds like a plan. Oh man, but that's a great analogy. So yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and I think it's important to look at it from that 30,000-foot view, because sometimes we only judge teaching against itself, and in a lot of ways it is a unique sport. I said sport on purpose, but in a lot of ways it's not. If you're going to be a professional, you're dedicated to your craft. Do you think those hipster beer guys, you know, the big mustaches, do you think they just go, "Yeah, I don't want to talk about beer anymore today, I'm burned out"? I don't think so. I think they got beer emails going, and I think they're every time they go to 7-Eleven, "Oh, I've never seen that one." I think that's how it works, and I think we need to give ourselves, as teachers, we need to give ourselves permission to be hipsters like that and say, "No, dude, I can't talk right now. I got the perfect lesson plan going. Watch the game without me for a minute." I think that's okay. I think it gets weird if the district expects you to do that as part of your contract. I'm good with that. Like, I wouldn't want the district to tell me, "John, I want you thinking about education on the weekend." But I will tell you, I'm going to do it because that's what makes my career better. That's my choice. It's not somebody, it's not the union or the Department of Ed or school telling me to do that.
Totally. So it definitely comes from us, and anybody that's following along right now and that's going to be listening later, then they're probably sipping on that same Kool-Aid. So absolutely, absolutely.
And I think you know this. We're all going to probably move districts. That was not how it worked in the old days, right? Sign up and you work for that darn district for 25 years. But nowadays we move, our husband or partner moves. district, do you want to roll in as that teacher that says, I don't know what to do without my workbooks? Roll in and go, hey, Latin roots, you can keep your books. I got this. And my scores are going to rock. Which do you want to be? That's the essence of it, right?
Oh yeah, that's totally what it is, you know. So definitely embracing the art of teaching. Absolutely. So, all right, cool. So we're going to switch gears really quickly and talk a little bit about Q. So congratulations, first and foremost, on your new role as interim executive director of Q. So for anyone not familiar with the organization, can you just tell us a little bit about what Q is and what Q does?
Yeah, well, I think the easiest way for people that are out of state is if you have an ISTE affiliate in your area. So I'm going to give some shout outs like NYSCATE in New York, MassQ up in Massachusetts, VISTE down in Virginia. If you're in a group like that, we're the California edition of that. And then we also represent Nevada. So we're like, it's a two-state thing. But we got about 11,000 members who like to geek out on education. We do a couple of big conferences every year. One's up in a place called Napa. That should give somebody a nice visual. And then the other one is down in the Palm Springs area, which Palm Springs in March is so good. It's so good. It's like 81 degrees, and they have a big street fair and lots of great food. And we'll have about 5,000 educators. And it's just an amazing think-alike group. I can't think of a better way to describe it. It's 5,000 people that see the problem of educating human children about the same way. And while we loved our technology, we are not slaves to it, because pedagogy is first, always, always, always. But guess what? You throw in a little Google Docs or a little iMovie and GarageBand or some Sway, and you really can crank it up a notch. And what I like to tell people is it's not all about paper, but my God, paper cannot be the only tool you have. Tool. That's like saying, I got this awesome restaurant. As long as you want mashed potatoes, I can set you up. But if you want something else, you got to go somewhere else, because all I got is mashed potatoes. I don't want to be that restaurant.
Oh yeah, no, you'd go out of business in a second. That's all you had. So
I mean, good, but I'm not sure I wouldn't want to have some garlic bread and maybe some Polish sausage to go with the mashed potatoes. You got to have something else. And that was a bad mix, but you got to have something else.
so you're speaking my language with all the carbs. I love it. But yeah, absolutely. So I know that Q rock stars, those are your babies, right? Like you
Yeah,
created that.
that's kind of my special pet project that I started. I think we're coming up on 8 years ago now, where basically I wanted to reimagine what a conference was. I was at a place in my career where I went to a lot of conferences, like a lot, like one a week almost. I was all over the place, and I realized that every day at lunch I had to look through my little bag of whatever I was at to decide what the sessions were, because they were coming at me so fast and furious that it was like getting overwritten in my brain. And so I said to myself, wow, maybe we're trying too much. Maybe we should do less. So at a Rockstar camp, we usually have 3 sessions a day. And the idea is that you go in and you get skills, because I don't want to sit in an audience and have somebody get me all jacked up, and then when I leave, the thing, right? So we keep the size ratios small. At the Rockstar summer camps, we do a 1-to-10 ratio. So there'll be on average 8 to 15 people in the session. And that means if you came in to learn about Classcraft or Seesaw or Class Dojo or HyperDocs, you would actually have a 90-minute session where you would probably make a couple. That way, when you're back in front of your human children on Monday, you're like, you guys, check this out. This is going to be rad. Now, it doesn't make you an expert. You have the skills to start up and start changing the way you're interacting with kids. One of the big things I'm against is the idea of just lecture, 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 and then worksheet, worksheet, worksheet. It's never worked before. I don't know why we ever think it's going to work. I think a lot of it is because that's the last thing. So that's what we think we're going to do to the 3rd graders, right? And just I cannot detect that that's ever worked for us.
Absolutely. And I love how like the model is so interactive for the participants as well. So you're actually like modeling that, like what we would want to see in a classroom at the Q Rockstar session. So I love that.
Yep.
Yeah, and I gotta say, one of my favorite parts about the Q Rockstar was the shred session at the beginning of the day where everybody like kind of pitched their session and started talking smack. That was so much fun.
Well, it's almost like if folks that are listening know what an Ignite session is, except even shorter and even more intense, and then it leads to a session. So basically, the whole faculty for the Rockstar Camp gets up and they decide locally if they're going to do 1 minute or two. Get 1 minute and one slide to try to attract people to come to their session to be able to say, oh my gosh, that person's hilarious. I don't even teach math, but I have to go to that session because we are soulmates, right? Another big piece of the Rockstar Camps besides the shred sessions, because that gives people a really good way to see what their session is going to be like. The third big part is the social media and the connection. Like if you start tweeting out to the Q Rockstar hashtag, you're going to make some friends. Like people are going to jump in and go like, oh my gosh, let me help you. And that's really a big part of our aesthetic, is helping people to connect with the best on the planet.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and I love the fact that the rock stars at Q Rockstar are the participants. That I thought that that was super super cool.
Well, and we really want it to be like, that's another thing, is like to help people not understand. Rockstar isn't like, look at me, I'm Elton John, all you people stay back 80 feet. It's more like, how do we help the attendees become rock stars? That's really what we're going for. Is it's not like us being the rock stars. It's like, how do we help you to be like a rock star teacher? Because the whole goal is to upskill teachers so that we can get more grassroots. See how I just worked that in from earlier?
I see that. I see
So the
what you did
idea
there.
is that if 10 people from a district come to a Rockstar Camp, they go back and they're like, okay, guys, I know how this works now. Because I got this one friend and I made this other friend on Twitter and we're going to talk to this person and here's how we're going to do it. So the idea is to create more Rockstar teachers, not just to keep the same 10 going. And to give you an idea of how effective that is, for 228 teachers last year to go out and do trainings for us in other districts. So it's not like it's just the same 10 people going every time. There's new ones coming in all the time.
That is super cool. And I love that how like everyone can be, an expert and everyone can be empowered, I should say, to to be a rock star. So I love
Yeah.
that. I love that.
Yeah, because really everybody has, if you're a teacher that's passionate and you're willing, what the kids need, those are the two ingredients I have. I did not say if you're a teacher that's passionate and you're the best lecturer ever, the best workbook ever, or you can make all the kids be quiet while you talk. That's not what I said. I said, if you're a passionate educator, you can be willing, kids need, then everybody can be a rock star teacher. And guess what? Sometimes the rock star teachers are really quiet. One of my favorite friends, John Miller, who has a great Minecraft EDU book out. If you're looking for Minecraft stuff, John Miller, you will never meet, go a long ways to find a quieter person. Dude is engaged with teaching and learning. He's a lion. He's like a whole other person. And then as soon as the session's over, he's just in his jam right then. And I mentioned Dave Burgess earlier. I've been able to be around him a little bit. When he's on stage, he's a different character. When he's off stage, he's incredibly humble, accessible, friendly. Not that he's not on stage, but he's a very much more of an introvert off stage. And so my point of this is, you don't have to necessarily be a loud, outgoing, Robin Williams-esque kind of character to be a good educator. I know a lot of good educators that are really quiet, but they create situations where the kids can really do authentic learning. Teachers are the ones that make the kids the big stars.
Absolutely, and that's what it boils down to. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your vision for Q in the future. What can we expect from you? What can we expect from Q down the line? Would love to hear all about that.
I would say, let's think. Biggest things. we're going to keep doing what is our core, which is we have the 2 great conferences where people can meet up. And I think those are critical. But I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of Burning Man. But I want to push the a little bit more in an appropriate way of what happens at conferences. I want it to be closer to the edge in terms of what's possible in terms of creativity, sharing, and in building. I think we can do better. I think they're both mind-blowing events. When people come the first time, they literally walk down the aisle going, why doesn't everybody have to go to this? Why don't they have to go to this? And so I think it's a good thing, but I think we owe it to our kids to see what we can do to maximize that time and really take it to the next level. I think we're going to keep doing a lot of our core stuff, which is like when we talked about the Rockstar Camps and the Black Label Edition. Black Label Rockstar Camp means that we come to your school and put on a private one just for your school. And they can do whatever they want. It could be all STEAM or all lesson design or mix and match. We don't care. We'll keep doing stuff like that. 2 of the big things I think that are coming will be we're going to reorganize. We're doing a quarterly magazine thing right now, a journal called On Cue. I think you might have probably written an article for it at some point.
Yeah.
What I do is bring that all into a single banner because we've got the blog, events, press, calendar, all these different things. And I think what we're going to do is pull that all into a single book and find out all these kind of best practices in one place. That's going to be one of the things I think we're going to be working on this year. Another one is I want to start bringing some of our PD online where folks can get access to some of our really cool products. We got a thing called Launch that helps people get ready for their Google Level 1 exam. Available to districts because it's kind of expensive to bring a person out for 2 days and do all that kind of stuff. So we're playing with the idea of possibly doing that as an online thing that it can help people prep to get ready for their Google certification. And we're working on those for Apple and Microsoft side as well, because sometimes just passing the test isn't good enough. Help people with the pedagogical things that go with that skill set, not just the technical skills. So I think Q doing some online learning is going to be a new thing coming this year. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that is super exciting. So cannot wait to see that roll out. So that is awesome. So Jon, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today and to just talk shop and drop those golden nuggets on us. So how can people get in touch with you online if they want to connect?
It's pretty hard. Corippo. Don't do Jon Corippo. I made that Twitter account and then lost the password after one tweet. How funny is that? So at J Corippo, or they can email me, jcorippo@cue.org. I will answer all of their emails. I'm glad to help. And Q, we're pretty busy with California, Nevada. We got about 350,000 teachers to serve in California, Nevada. And so we're pretty focused on being California oriented right now. But if they want tricks or ways to help out, always glad to share the playbook. Always glad to share the playbook. New Jersey or Maryland or something like that. Totally okay.
Absolutely. Well, that is awesome. So thank you so very much for joining us today. And thank you to everybody who is watching and to everyone who will be watching later or listening to the podcast. So the podcast will be available within the next few weeks on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts. So next week, we are back to our regular Tweet and Talk Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. And we're going to be speaking with Desiree Alexander. So come back and check that out. And then on Monday, we're going to have another special episode of EduMatch featuring Did Sit Summit, Utah. I have to say that very slowly. Did Sit.
Did sit? I like it though.
Yes, Did Sit Summit, Utah. So we're going to have Mary Alice and Michelle jumping on at 5:30 Eastern. And that's going to be 3:30 Mountain, 2:30 Pacific. So definitely check that out. So if anybody wants to join us on Sunday, you can check us out at getconnected.edumatch.org/sign up. And that is pretty much a wrap for today. So everyone have a great week. And thank you again to Jon for joining us. And thank you to you all for your support.
Thanks for having me on, Sarah. I love what you're doing with EduMatch. It's fabulous.
Thank you so much, Jon. Really appreciate it and love what you're doing with Q. So thank you.
All right. Right back at you.
All right. Thank you.